Hello everyone, let's discuss recursive functions. Now a recursive function is any function that happens to call upon itself continuously unless the program satisfies a specific condition. Now every recursive function has what is called a base case. Now a base case is the condition that it has to satisfy before the recursive function stops. Now, when you have a recursive function, the function is defined, and at some point inside of the function execution, it calls upon itself. So let's see an example of that right now. Now, this is an example of a recursive function, though it's not properly developed yet. Now, this is a function named test, and inside of the function, we have a call to that same function. So inside of this function, the function calls upon itself. That makes it a recursive function. Now let's go ahead and see how we can actually solve a problem using a recursive function. Now let's recursively loop through all of the letters of the alphabet and print them. So let's say int print chars, and now let's say printf. So it will take in a single argument, which is the start character, let's say char I. So now it will printf %c, no, %c I, and yeah. So now after printing the character that was provided by the user, what we want to check is if this character is less than z. So if it is less than the character z, we want to continue to print, to like call this function again to continue to print. So it means it will come over and begin this entire loop again with the second value. Here you can see the I+1. So now in C language, we have ASCII values. Now what this ASCII values does is it represents all of the characters that are present in the keyboard, like in the scope of human sense. All of the characters, asterisk, the curly braces, they are represented by a specific number. So what this does is when we add 1 to the character, it goes into the ASCII chart, add 1 to the ASCII value. Let's say it's 65 for the letter A. It moves it up by one step, which is 66, and then it checks the value, the character that matches that specific ASCII value. So now let's go ahead and say now if it's no longer less than. So what we want to do is we want to printf a new line and then return. So now let's go over this again. We have a function which is the print chars that takes in a value like a character. So what this character does is it prints initially, just prints the character that's provided by the user. Then it checks if this character is less than z. If it is less than z, that means we are not already all the way to z, which means we want to continue printing. Then to call this function again, adding 1 to the value of the character. So if we have a as a function call, what will happen here is we'll print the a in this line. Then we go ahead here, since it's less than z, it would add 1 to a, which means now we have b. But then we are calling the same function, so it will start here again. We now have this print chars with b as the value. So it continues like this and increases all the way to c and all the way to z. Now let's call this function and see if it actually works as intended. Okay, now let's always remember you need to have the prototype of your function at the beginning of your code if you are going to be having them in the same file. So let's go ahead and run and compile our code right now. Lecture 6. So gcc main.c outputs main. So now we can run /main and see what happens. Why is that? I have improperly implemented my recursive function. So let's see why that is. So it turns out this printf function that is printing a new line continues to print whenever like this function runs. So it recursively prints all of these values while we are running the code. So let's say I run compile now and this. So we have the print that works properly, right? We have all the values of the alphabet, but then it continues to print a new line. So that is what we don't want right now. So let me go ahead and remove this from this block and then paste it up here. So now when I recompile my code, we would have the desired output. So now we can see we have A, B, C all the way to Z. But now if I should change this value to something else, we can see it still works fine as it prints from that specific value. Now we have high all the way to Z. But what happens when we go the other way around? We go past the values of the character. So now you would see it still works fine because this value is like before the Z. But then we provide a value that is right after. So let's say we use the capital value now. I guess this would still work. Yes. So now as you can see, this is like the ASCII definition of things, because now the small values of the alphabet, which is the A, begins at 65. That's the ASCII on the ASCII chart. Then we have the Z at I think 97. So that works all the way to Z. So that is why this is like this. So now we have an example of a recursive function. Thank you for watching. Please like my video and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this.